Hey ho, let's go, folks. Good afternoon. Hope you are well wherever you are. Welcome to Pugsley's Pit. I'm Sean Pugsley Martin. Welcoming you to this, we'll call it Happy Oakland Athletics Friday. We've got a great show lined up today, but before that, we always ask you the question, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Got my Oakland Athletics shirt on. It's Friday. Getting ready to end the work week, head into the weekend. By way of introduction, I'm a freelance sports writer with the Albany Times-Union, sports enthusiast, big-time homer for my teams, without apologies. Can also be found as co-host of M&M Across the Board on a weekly basis. You can find the show on Twitter at Pugsley's Pit and taking the podcast on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Today's show, I'm excited. It's Friday afternoon. Our A's are on a 6-game losing streak, but you know what? There's always today. On today's show, we're going to be joined by Oakland A's team reporter Jessica Kleinschmidt. And with that, let's not waste any more time. Welcome to the pit, Jessica.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Sure thing. Appreciate your time. It's baseball season's always good, right? 6 months of fun.
I thought we were going to have a delay, so we're pretty much on time. The lockout wasn't as long as I anticipated, and we're good to go. Yeah.
Hey, it's all good. Hey, for those that aren't familiar with you, how'd you get your start in the industry, and just talk about what you're doing with the Athletics?
How can you not be familiar with me, Sean?
I am.
I'm just kidding. I'd be shocked if you were familiar with me. Yeah, I have a very unique road to where I'm at. I actually dropped out of community college because I thought maybe I could just figure out my own way. So I was working for the federal government when I decided to quit that job and pursue sports blogging, which I've always wanted to be the A's reporter, literally since I was 12.
Awesome.
We left an A's game and I told my father, I'm going to be this team's reporter. And he was great about it because he said, okay, let's do it. And fast forward, I'm not going to tell you the exact amount of years. I don't want to date myself, but I am now doing it. Now I actually was just like blogging for fun on social media, and I kept getting discovered about 2016 or 2017. I was picked up by Cut4 from MLB.com. Probably the most fun job I've ever had up until this point. And we got to kind of do the behind the scenes fun stuff, blogging about that. And I had a fun little show there. NBC recruited me and I worked there for about 3 years. I left them in October and then the A's picked me up rather quickly. So now I'm the A's team reporter. I'm hosting a show, hosting podcasts, and then I have a segment on the pregame radio show, all the social media hosting, really fun stuff, the stuff I've always wanted to do, and doing some national stuff as well. So that's where I'm at now. And I'm super thankful. And the job's fantastic. I feel like I get to go to work and hang with my best friends and my family and then cover the team that I grew up loving. It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I have my freelance sports writing thing. I go to games. I've covered NCAA Division I hockey national championships. I'm like, I'm getting paid to do this. I'd want to be here anyway as a fan.
Yeah.
I grew up background. I grew up in the Oakland area, Bay Area, way back in the 70s. I haven't been to the Coliseum since 1977. That's a few years ago. But that place is still home to me. So
I was going to say it probably looks the exact same, I would assume.
It really does. Outside of the Mount Davis out in the outfield, it pretty much does the same. So,
yeah.
Hey, the A's, right? We're in Minnesota tonight, kick off the weekend. Brutal home trip, 0-6. What's the vibe around the team right now? It's a young group. Is it coming together? What are we doing here?
I mean, the vibe's always going to be good in the A's clubhouse. And I actually talked to Tony Kemp about this recently. He's one of the more tenured guys on the team, which is, if you think about it, interesting because he's only been with the team for a few seasons. But when Marcus Semien was in town, I asked, what's it like having him return to the team? And he'd been back with the against the A's with the Blue Jays last season. But Tony Kemp told me he actually is trying to instill some of the things that Marcus Semien taught him into that clubhouse. Mind you, it's a different clubhouse because the A's are now in the Raiders clubhouse, which for me is exciting because it's more room. The guys can breathe more. The guys get 2 lockers now. Really cool from that. There's still like Hall of Fame autographs from Raiders players in the locker room, which is really cool from a historical standpoint. And like you said, they are young, so there's the energy is certainly going to be there. But one thing that I've been really impressed with was the amount of short-term memory these guys have, which is super important as far as an athletic pursuance goes, and they're understanding that every little thing, there's always another time to get back to it. And the beautiful thing about baseball is there's always another chance for you to succeed. And Tony Kemp once told me that they're playing a game a professional game at the highest level of failure. And that's something to really think about. But it's still a really solid team. Vibes good. Kotze's doing a phenomenal job. And he kind of stepped into a very unique situation. We know a lot of the guys, then big names got traded over the offseason. And it wasn't just from the numbers perspective. Chris Bassett was a leader in that group, and Sean Manaea was so beloved, and Canada was just so wicked smart about the game. And of course, the two Matts who put the team really on the map. But we kind of anticipated that coming, and now it's about the opportunity. All these young guys get opportunity, Christian Bethancourt, Stephen Vogt, Jed Lowry returning, to the bigs, and those two returning to the actual team. They're getting opportunities as well. So there's a lot of cool storylines going on, but overall they understand what's going on. No team likes to lose, but remember the A's started out on a 6-game losing streak right out of the gate last season. And then they went on to win 13 in a row. And baseball's finicky that way, where you'll sweep the Yankees, but lose to the Orioles type of a deal. And that's kind of what happens. But, it's baseball and it's a long season.
I'm in Yankee country. Anytime we can sweep the Yankees is a good 3-day, 4-day
There you go.
Does it help? Ramon Laureano's coming back off suspension soon. He's a veteran as far as this group goes. Get some energy, his energy that he brings to the team, get him back.
Sunday, baby. Let's go. Yeah, he is, and I've been so spoiled being able to watch him from a young guy after the trade to becoming a leader. And not only are his numbers good, he steals bases. He's so electric and so fun. And then when we get Christian Pache on the team, you're like, wow, we get two of these guys. And Ramon Laureano he's fast. He covers so much ground. He's got this ridiculous arm that nobody really likes to talk about. And then you even saw it when they were in the wild card game against the White Sox. They weren't going to run on Ramon Laureano. No. And so we just talked to Kotze about that. And beyond the numbers, the guy just has a passion for it. And, Kotze is a former center fielder himself for the A's. And so when you can see him kind of lighting up when he sees similar things in him. And he actually admitted when it came to Christian Pache, he wishes he was as good as Christian Pache, but that's just not the case. And that's really impressive for somebody like Mark Kotze, one of the best college baseball players of all time, to say. And it's just bringing him back onto that team, especially because when he was suspended, the team toward the end last year was making a run for the playoffs, and you're just itching to get back. And he's so passionate, and we have a very similar love and affinity for Joey Votto. And I know he's going to want to come back and pick Joey's brain because they do, pass batting stuff back and forth and everything like that. So that's going to be bigger than just those numbers for sure.
Looking at some of the kids stepping up, Lou Trevino goes out. I like what Danny Jimenez has done. But AJ Puck, I read a nice piece on him, how he's made some changing in his throwing motion, and maybe he's going to become the AJ Puck we've all been waiting for the last few years. Is it? Look, the year's going to be what it's going to be. Not going to make the playoffs under. It would be awesome. Not likely, but it's a good chance to see what these young kids are and to assess what the team is. What about those guys in the bullpen?
I think I'm more excited for AJ Puck than AJ Puck is excited for AJ Puck. And he actually put on some weight. And I remember looking at him thinking, like, I don't remember this guy having any body weight, or lower body weight. And I heard on the broadcast Alice Braden talking about how he put on some mass. And I actually talked to AJ about it a few days ago. And he actually picked Homer Bailey's brain to put some weight on. And, we always joke like, oh, it must be so easy to gain weight. But, I think Puck's 6'7". He's extremely tall, and he had to eat 8 meals a day, Sean. 2 of them were protein shakes, don't get me wrong, but those are still going to put some weight on you. And he had to shove food down his throat. But at the end of the day, he was like, I'm okay. It was terrible. I didn't like it, but look at the results. He's got a sub-1 ERA. striking out a lot of guys. The velocity's there. His specialty pitches are working. The A's were always known for a really strong bullpen. And you mentioned, Danny Jimenez has really stepped up. Kirby Snead had a really rough outing, but I really think when he's on it, he can be great as well. Zach Jackson as well. I really like what those guys are doing and everything like that. So Puck, he was one of the most highly touted left-handed pitchers as overall, not just in the A's organization. As far as prospects go. He went up with Jesus Luzardo, and to see a lefty that strong, it's just a completely different guy, and he's happy with it. He's like, if I have to eat a lot of food, it wasn't great, but I'm going to do it. And, say what you want about Homer Bailey, but he did have a very lucrative or a illustrious career and everything like that. And, he did play for the A's for a little bit. I think he's still in the, I don't know what he's up to right now, but it's just interesting to see him learning from that. But overall, the bullpen, when it's on, it's so strong. Lou, of course, is very, very streaky. But when Danny stepped up, when Lou was on COVID, IL was fantastic to watch. Yeah. And Kotze was really happy to have a lot of easy problems to deal with, if you will. Sam Moll really strong as well, and that was cool to watch. And even our starting pitching is really strong. Frankie Montas had a phenomenal outing. Unfortunately, wasn't backed up by a lot of offensive production. And Dalton Jeffries, I swear he's going to come out and just shock y'all. He's going to, and I have a very personal obsession with him and his family. He's just a good dude. He actually told me something really beautiful the other day, and I'll tell you that later if you remind me. It just opened my mind, and hopefully Honeywell can come back and be strong. The pitching has been very, very impressive overall.
Blackburn's been a bit of a surprise.
Yes. Yes. I forgot about Paulie B. Of course. Yeah. He's been fantastic. And you want to talk about getting given an opportunity. He's taken advantage of every opportunity he's been given. Last outing wasn't too great. He still has a sub-3 ERA, which is great to look at, but he did feel bad that he left his team down. I think he went in 4 1/3 innings. So almost to 5 innings, which is the ultimate goal. And even seeing Frankie go 6 innings the other day was like, oh, we're so spoiled. We got to see again. We're old enough to remember, Sean, when pitchers went 9 innings or 7 innings, if we're really going for. I think Kluber went pretty far along into his outing as well. So that was a cool game to watch from that aspect. But yeah, don't sleep on some of these pitchers. They're quite impressive.
It's fun to watch. Look, it's a rebuild. Okay. It is what it is, but I'm loyal to the team. Matt Olson was my guy. Sonny Gray before him. Ben Olson. But now my favorite athletic, you said it, was Christian Pache. What is he? He is such a great social media presence. He looks fun. He looks like he's having a good time. If somebody asks him about the crowds, like we only played in front of 1,800 people, he goes, I don't care if it's one. I want to play well for that person.
He's really shy, actually, and he kind of reminds me of Ramon Laureano in that aspect, because we see them and it's no different. Like, if you're a former athlete, I was a psychopath when I had adrenaline, and I'm kind of a psychopath when I don't, but it's fine. It's kind of one of those things. You're just a different breed, a different animal. So when he's out there making these plays, he's electric, he's flexing, he's doing all these cool things. And then you talk to him in the clubhouse or in the dugout, and he's shy. He's just so thankful to be there and just a beautiful human being. But yeah, his first couple of games, I asked him, like, what's it like hearing the outfielders? And they befriended him. Now we have the right field and the left field bleachers, which we're super spoiled with. They develop a personal relationship with some of these guys. There's, they make the signs out there specifically for the Ramon Laureanos and Mark Canna in the past, and Seth Brown and Stephen Piscotty and all of that. And I think that he feeds off of that. Yeah. And I think that's kind of beautiful from that perspective. And once he gets his bat going, it's going to be insane. And now with the way that the A's pitching has been, a lot of hitters are hitting them in the outfield right now. So Pache's been very, very busy. But we're finally able, another bonus is too, is Ramon comes back. We're still not 100% sure how that outfield's going to look. A lot of good problems to have. But Ramon Laureano was playing right field a little bit in spring training. So that's going to be a lot of ground to cover. But also Pache deserves a day off here and there. And so that's another blessing. He's going to have a lot of a workload this season. Now, especially with, Elvis Andrus too, now that Nick Allen's back in AAA, and all of that. So we're finally at a point where guys are not as injured anymore, knock on wood. Ramon's coming back from suspension. Hopefully we can get some guys the day off, and like, hopefully that lineup looks a little bit more what we would like it to look before some of those COVID and injury bugs hit in spring training and everything like that. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's talk about the game a little bit. Again, I live in New York, and I get it's brutal because I get just Yankee stuff just hammered down my throat. My wife's from Boston, so I got to deal with Red Sox people out there. It's awful. But a lot of Yankee fans right now are telling, hey, they're doing situational hitting. They're taking the extra base. They're doing things baseball teams haven't done in a number of years. The shift, I'm not a fan of the shift. I would use it if I were a GM. You got to use the numbers. Numbers don't lie. But it became home run derby. It was a home run or a strikeout, which isn't my kind of baseball. But it looks like some of the teams are figuring out the ball is not the same this year. Go the other way. How has the game changed from your perspective?
So that's a good question, because I feel like I've lived like 18 different lives with how the game has changed. And, when you're younger, all you know is home runs, right? Now, I really fell in love with the game during Mark McGwire versus Sammy Sosa. And I would give just about anything to relive that. And it was actually kind of funny when I was playing Little League, I played both for the Cardinals, and the next season I played for the Cubs. So that like really helped as well. I didn't know anything else about it until I became a mature player myself, and I was obsessed with defense. And now the shift is something that really I'm super intrigued by. And I think that that's important, because I know as a society, baseball's quote boring, right? But we have to remind people that just because a guy doesn't hit a home run, it's not going to be an exciting game. Like, give me a good pitcher's duel with some good defensive plays, situational hitting all damn day. Bunt on the shift. That's exciting as fuck. I love that. I love that. And I get where you're coming from too. You like the idea of the shift, but I want Brandon Crawford to dive for a damn ball. I don't want to know that he's going to get the ball. Like, come on. And that was actually Buster Posey who spoke during a radio station outing for that, and saying like, I don't like the shift because like I'm spoiled. I want to see one of the best defensive shortstops make a play. Like, that's what we need to bring more into the game. Yeah. And you're not going to have that if the guy's just going yard every single time and you have the Bronx Bombers. Cool. That's great. But like, what about the people who love a good defensive gem? Like, I will give up everything for a good defensive web gem in like a Sports Center top 10 play. Then like, okay, the guy's going to jog around the bases, unless it was like a walk-off situation, a really intense thing like that. So I lived through the steroid era. I lived through the juiced ball era. I've lived through I'm living the non-juiced ball era right now. I think it's beautiful that they're embracing it, but I also know it's just the ball does not fly lately. And it's it's weird to watch in certain aspects. But also it shows the guys who don't skip lifting, the Thursday arm day, they are not skipping that day in the gym and everything like that. But it's kind of interesting to see how they're messing with things. We're never going to act like, I haven't opened a baseball ever, so I don't really know, but of course I've read the reports and I've seen some things. But at the Coliseum, it's always interesting because it definitely favors to pitchers because of the big foul territory, but also favors hitters in certain aspects of that as well. You can keep that at bat going. But it's been kind of interesting, and to see what people are interested in on social media. I'm a big social media person. You'll see the stuff that I'm sharing. It's rarely going to be a home run unless it's like my boy Kevin Smith with his first career grand slam and stuff like that. That's your boy. Yeah, let's go. And so stuff like that's really cool, and like a walk-off win, of course, and all of that. But at the same time, I just want like the small ball, and I want the fun stuff. And we have a DH now. Like, let's embrace that. He doesn't have to hit a home run every single time. And you want to embrace like how smart that guy is in the situational hitting. We're not going to have an Ichiro Suzuki every time who's like, I think I'm going to hit it there. And then he hits it there. Like, that's not going to happen all the time. But I would appreciate it if we had the option.
Yeah. Like for me, I'm a throwback, right? I miss my Friday nights go home, put some beer in the fridge, and get ready to watch Greg Maddux pitch an hour and 50-minute 9-inning shutout or a 2-hitter or something like that. It's artistic. And
Yes.
that's the thing about baseball. Look, the game is what it was. Again, I would do the shift. I don't like it. I'm kind of glad they're banning it, although I wish hitters would just go the other way.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I also it's still bizarre to me how they're going to be able to measure that.
I don't know.
Because as a shortstop myself, I was like so like all over the place. I was never shifting. Yeah. I was just like I had to pace back and forth. I was just like, how do you measure that? I mean, I guess it's different. Like obviously, like the Brandon Crawfords of the world can adjust, and Elvis Andrus like doesn't really. He's not really moving around as much as he used to. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah. Back to Oakland. Look, the crowds are low this year. It is what it is. Is it? How is it different for you? A broadcasting does it matter? And really to the players and what their feeling is with the crowds. That's a whole nother topic that has nothing to do with them.
And it's kind of interesting. And we've asked Mark Kotze about, there aren't that many fans, and I'm not just saying this, but you wouldn't really sometimes be able to tell the difference if there was 10,000 fans compared to 50,000. Now the Coliseum can hold up to 55,000. They broke that wild card record of attendance back in 2019 because remember it's a football field at the end of the day, and everything like that. So they have been low. We are not stupid. I've seen the numbers. I've watched the numbers and it's difficult. And I know a lot of times these guys feed off of the emotions. Like King Felix would throw an absolute gem because he had King's Court right behind him. And that's a legitimate thing. It even affects fantasy numbers sometimes, which is super interesting to think about. And I couldn't imagine, like sometimes I just you can feel the actual, energy happening. And I don't know if you ever had this, but if you ever went to your first MLB game in person, you realize the field is just a standard field. Like I was playing on that exact footage of field when I was playing Babe Ruth. It's the surrounding stuff that makes it massive and it makes it big and all of that. And that's such a game changer. And yeah, of course it's going to alter some things, but I also know at the end of the day, these guys they're athletes. They know they have to go out and do a job. And if they can feed off the crowd, cool. But if not, that's a thing too. And I mean, the A's are not the only one that have low attendance. The Reds are not doing well. There's a lot of stuff there. I would say the Orioles, but my best friend, Melanie Newman, who does play-by-play, I've seen their crowds. They're doing okay with the crowds and everything like that. So it's interesting from that dynamic, but they're aware of it, but they can't force fans to show up. And, I'm hoping that the fans continue to show up. We're paying attention to the ones that do. And they still make noise. We just can hear the hecklers a little bit more now.
Yeah, look, I'm always one that if I'm throwing a party, I don't worry about who's not there. I take care of the ones that are. Right.
Good for you, because I'm the opposite. I'm like, why didn't she show up? There could be 8,000 people. I'm like, but Matt's not here. Where's Matt?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
just kidding. Matt's always there. Matt always shows up.
Yeah. No, the baseball stadiums for me, I mean, as heard in a movie, they're cathedrals, right? Mm-hmm. One of my greatest memories in my life, and I'll show you the cover here. I wrote a book about a year and a half ago to my twin boys. And the cover is something I'll never forget. It. My first ever baseball game, I was in the Oakland Coliseum. When you walk up the stairs and you get your first glimpse of the field. Okay. So this is the cover to my book that I wrote to my boys.
Oh.
And that memory, I still have it, right? That was almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't wait to take them to a game so they can see that. Just what's it like going to work in a Major League Baseball
stadium?
If
you're ever in town, I would love to leave you tickets first and foremost. I would love to do that for you. You know what? For me, it's such a beautiful circle moment. And I'm glad you brought that up because I told you that little anecdote that Dalton Jeffries gave me recently. And that's what it's all about. So he had a really rough outing against the Giants. And the usual guys who asked the first question weren't there. So I had to be the first person to ask a question. And I was nervous as hell to ask, like, hey, but it was good for me as a journalist. And one of the third things I asked was like, were there positives to take away from this? And he said, yes, the moment is always bigger than the result. And I thought about that. Like I can be scrounging for a pregame segment, freaking out that I didn't do well on it. But then I have to take a step back and be like, Jessica, you told your dad you were going to cover this team. You're not only doing it, but you're doing all this other stuff. The A's, front office trusts you with all the content. You prayed for this. You worked your ass off for it.
Yep.
Take a breather. Take a damn breather, because you didn't get enough retweets and crap, or somebody was being mean to you on Twitter. Like, you wanted to do this. And Dalton's situation was similar, because he said, I'm 5 years removed from Tommy John. My friends and family are here, because he's a Northern Nevada or Northern California resident. I'm a Northern Nevada resident. He is Northern California. There was like somebody wearing his, I think it was a sister-in-law wearing her Dalton Jeffries jersey. And he was like, so, if I have a pretty bad outing, of course I'm going to be upset, but like, think of the moment there and all the resiliency he had to get back there. And he wasn't on the team just because these guys are getting opportunities. This guy deserved his start in that rotation, in the A's rotation. And I was like, okay, that's what you have to remind yourself. At the end of the day, however, it is a job, and sometimes you're going to get stressed out. And it doesn't matter if you're a baseball player. Sometimes it's a job, and you have to, and that's just like, nothing bad about that. You're like, I'm tired, but I have to go out there and do it and everything like that. So that really resonated with me, and I'll never forget that. And that was just a couple weeks ago when he mentioned that. And I was like, oh, here I am bitching about something small, and you have the job that you've always wanted, and a job that you get to kind of create all this stuff and bring hype into the A's. So I'm forever thankful for Dalton for mentioning that. And so when you ask me what it's like to show up to the Coliseum, the place I've always wanted to work, it's dope.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I always reflect on the Coliseum. It's old. It's got a lot of issues, but
it's experienced.
It's experienced. I like that even better. To me,
when you work with a lot of veteran players, they don't want to hear that they're old. They're experienced, especially when my age isn't too far off from them. I'm not going to call them old. Like, that's messed up.
But it still has its charm, and it's still the Coliseum. It's like, the place might be a bit of a hole, but it's our hole.
It's a dive bar, the last dive bar.
The last dive bar, which I should note, I ordered my first ever swag from the last dive bar this morning.
Oh, I'm going to let them know.
I got my shirt coming, and I'm a coffee junkie, and I needed a new coffee mug for my collection.
I love that.
Yeah, I've been following him on Twitter for quite some time. Like, why do I not own any of this?
Well, Bassett wore a shirt last year wearing that.
Yeah. And we're also, Jessica, for people that want to follow you, how do they get you on Twitter? What's the podcast? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So you're going to follow me on Twitter at KleinschmidtJD, and on Instagram, Jessica Kleinschmidt. All my podcast stuff for now is on A's Cast. We have other stuff coming up as well. And then always listen to the A's pregame show, and that's going to be on iHeartRadio. You can listen to it there. And all my other stuff is going to be A's YouTube page, A's social media. You'll find all kinds of stuff on me.
That's great. Real quick, the tribute to Ray Fosse. What was that like? It's a sad. He'd been part of that family since I became an A's fan in the early 70s. And how tough was that?
I am still kind of in denial about it, but and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, like, Dallas has always been kind of a main part of that broadcast. So you're still hearing Dallas's voice, but I liked how Ray was able to be himself, and he loved the game, Sean. Like, it wasn't on an off day, he would just sit there and talk to you about baseball, and he was able to laugh and say, wow, and like be in awe of some of these athletes. And to know that he was able to be himself throughout all that time was really cool for me, just as a broadcaster.
Yeah.
Cause I was always nervous to kind of be myself, and to watch, Dallas and Vince and Ken Korak walk out to center field and reveal the Ray Fosse poster on that will forever be there is just beautiful. And it's like a beautiful sentiment to him. And, before he was even the voice, he was a player, and he had that phenomenal play at the plate that people will never forget, and just had a story for everything. And I remember specifically, I think it was 2 seasons ago, maybe last season, when the media was finally able to go on the field, Matt Chapman stopped in his tracks to like make sure he said hello to Ray Fosse. You know what I mean? That's the type of presence that man had, and he forever will have a presence there. So that's just, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was my year of becoming an A's fan. It was the early 70s. I moved out there in October of 72 for the first World Series from New York. So special times and enjoyed following Ray. I've got the MLB extra innings package since its inception, well over 20 years now.
Oh yeah.
Just how I know it's Sunday afternoon when it's 4:05 and there's a ball game starting in Oakland, California, and that's usually where I try and be. It kind of helps me unwind and wind down the weekend.
I love that. Perfect.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy with the team, and give Kevin Smith a hello from his people back in Albany, and we're all rooting for him.
I definitely will.
All right. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye now. That was Jessica Kleinschmidt. Thank her for joining Pugsley Pit this week. Let's go to my world real quick. Jessica and I were talking about the Oakland Coliseum. Look, it's old. It was opened up in 1968. New thing with the show, trying to get away from the stadium issue, trying to get away from the politics of it all. Quite frankly, it's driven my head into the ground. So, as we did on the show with Jessica today, we're going to talk about what's on the field and appreciating this A's team. Is like I said, you got some veterans there, but you got some young players, and you can find out what you have going forward and look forward to the next few years. So, but going back to the Coliseum, as I mentioned it before, it's magical memories for me. Back in the 70s, 3 straight World Series, 5 straight divisional titles. One was for my time in 71, but 75, that World Series run ended with Boston. But it was magical going to the games. You showed you the book cover. I'll never forget that. And I still get that feeling anytime I go to a new stadium about just you walk up there and you see the ballpark. It's a manicured. It looks like carpet. It doesn't even look like grass. But memories from the Coliseum. My first ever game, Brooks Robinson hit a home run for the Orioles. We brought a Reggie Jackson sign that we hung out over the second deck, and security made us take it down because it was a health hazard. But it was white, could get confused with the ball. But those teams with Reggie, Catfish, Campy, Rudy, Tennis, Holtzman, Blue, Raleigh, Captain Sal Bando, and the rest, Ray Fosse, Dick Green. One of my favorite memories there, I'm gonna say it was 75 or 76. It was at the A's game with my family. They were down 7-1 to the Red Sox, who I hated. And they came back and won the game. I don't remember the year. I don't remember the final score, but I remember the feeling because my mother has pictures of us being upset early in the game that our team was getting their tails kicked. And then a few hours later, sheer jubilation when the A's were able to come back and get the win. My 11th birthday in 1976, the A's were on the verge of being eliminated by the Royals in the AL West. It was a big rain night, a ton of rain. There was also a lot of beanballs. And Dennis Leonard put one in Don Baylor's back, and Baylor dropped his bat, walked out to the mound, and away we went. I remember John Mayberry and another Royal teammate throwing Phil Garner around. At the time, he was a rookie second baseman for the A's. And then some fans got into it with their umbrellas with the Royal bullpen people down the right field line. So pretty crazy. I was there the night Claudio Washington as a 19-year-old rookie get a game-winning hit in the 9th inning off of Gaylord Perry to end a long winning streak by Mr. Perry, the cheater, when he was with the Indians. Other memories, I got to see Catfish Hunter come back as a Yankee in 75. He threw a 2-hit shutout. The standing ovation he got coming in from the bullpen was magic. I'll never forget it. And to start the game, got to see Henry Aaron hit a home run when he was with the Brewers, baseball's all-time leading home run leader. Got to see him jack one. And yes, I'll even admit, I booed Reggie Jackson when he came back to the Coliseum as an Oriole. I took some heat from my mom for that one, but I root for the uniform, not the name on the back. That's the way it goes. And another former Athletic, Blue Moon wrote him. Saw him twirl a combined no-hitter when he was with the White Sox with Francisco Barrios. So a lot of great memories with the Coliseum, and we'll always have those. And the A's are going to end up playing where they play. It's either going to be Vegas or a different stadium on the Coliseum side or Howard Terminal. Just going to let it play out and let it take care of itself. Now, we have a new segment. Yes, it's blurry, and I'm okay with that because Rod Brindamore is the first recipient. Write this down, breaking news. A new award on Pugsley's Pit. It's called the Whiny Bitch of the Week Award. Rob Brindamore called out David Pasternak, of all people, accusing him of basically running his goalie. There was a collision, but intentionally trying to hurt him. David Pasternak is one of the cleanest players in the game. And the fact that the Bruins were down and on a power play where they've struggled immensely, to think Pasternak's going to intentionally run the goalie, all Brendan Moore's doing. It's gamesmanship. He's trying to maybe buy a call here or there in the next couple of games. I'm not sure the Canes need any extra calls from the refs. I think they've gotten some good ones already, and they look really good. They can't blame the refs. The Bruins are down 2-0 because Carolina's been the better team, but hopefully we can turn things around tonight in game 3. So, with that note, just remember to follow the show on Twitter at Pugsley's Pit, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Thanks again, Jessica Kleinschmidt. Great conversation. Hopefully we see her again throughout the year. It was a lot of fun getting her perspective on the A's and what's going on there with our beloved Athletics. Let's go out to Minnesota and have a great weekend. Eh? On that note, folks, have a great weekend yourselves. We will be back Monday with some of our old friends from ball9.com, baseball website. Chris Vitale runs. It's an awesome group over there. So thanks again. Have a great weekend. Bye now.